So I don't know if you heard, but Damian Lillard has been traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. And most notably, after you get over the holy crap, Dame and Giannis are on the same team, you then realize, oh man, Miami, they screwed up. Has this ever happened to you? You're doing some online shopping, you find something you like. It's a store unfamiliar to you, so you have to sign up to check out and give them a lot of your information, including your contact info. And then after purchasing your item, you cannot seem to escape the spam calls, texts, and emails. And if you're someone like me, aka someone who's just completely addicted to buying dumb shit online, well, that means the rest of your days you just simply cannot escape these spam calls. But you know, you had to give them your info. That's just the way it works, right? Well, not with today's sponsor, Cloaked. Cloaked enables users to generate instant online identities, shielding their actual contact information from potential threats and spam. They specialize in instant generation of aliases for phone numbers, emails, and more, allowing users to maintain their privacy across various platforms without delay. Their aim is to popularize Cloaked among a broad spectrum of internet users, especially those who are receiving an influx of unsolicited emails, spam, and potential data risks. Given the hellscape that is the modern internet, now is the right time to prioritize digital security and privacy. Cloaked positions itself as a protective layer, allowing users to retain their regular online behavior while benefiting from the enhanced security. If you are chronically online like me, then you just need to have some sort of security from the rampant data scraping that these corporations are constantly doing. It's a breach of privacy and something that you should take very seriously. Don't just take this on the chin. And luckily for you, Cloaked has given me a code to make it much easier for you. If you click the link in the description and use my code RUSTY, you will get 20% off of their service for the first 3 months. Again, click the link in the description and use my code RUSTY for 20% off of your first 3 months of their service. Thank you to Cloaked for sponsoring this video. Real quick before I get into this video, if you end up enjoying it, please be sure to subscribe. Also drop a like. It only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference in how this video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Also, you may have noticed the wall is no longer black. I'm moving and I had a painter come in because people buying homes don't really care for that. So yeah, that's why. It's not a big deal, but I figured you'd notice. All right, so let's talk about the Heat and Dame. And I guess let's start off with talking about the negotiations that went down, because this is a huge area of contention. Basically, everybody on Twitter is just arguing between Pat Riley and Joe Cronin, the president for the Heat and the GM for the Blazers, who was a bigger in this interaction. And frankly, I am going to come on neutral ground here and say that it seems like both of them were kind of being, and that is something that I feel like gets lost on sports fans, where, you know, we love this kind of behavior and, you know, the cutthroat nature of sports. But when it comes to general managing and things of that nature, these guys tend to view themselves in a similar way. Whether that's warranted or not, it's still very cutthroat, whether it's on the floor or determining which players are on the floor. And it's not uncommon to hear about GMs and presidents of basketball operations just acting like complete and it seemed like that happened both ways here. So with that said, I'm not saying there is full criticism to go towards Miami, because there's definitely things Portland did in negotiations that were a little bit questionable. But the main thing that really matters here is that regardless of what hand Joe Cronin may have played in Miami not getting Damian Lillard this year, that started with the Miami Heat essentially acting as though they already had him. Now, this previous offseason, they allowed Gabe Vincent and Max Strus to leave in free agency, which made sense if Damian Lillard was going to be joining the Heat. Ultimately, what the Heat did was plan everything in this offseason with no contingency around getting Damian Lillard. They put all of their eggs in the Damian Lillard basket. Now, that was fairly reasonable given that Dame did specifically ask to go to Miami. Reasonable enough for putting all of your eggs in one basket, because that's never a good idea. It made sense why they felt so certain that he would end up there, but they still should not have operated as though that was a certainty. A great example of this, the Lakers when Anthony Davis wanted to go there specifically. Sure, AD asked specifically to go to the Lakers, and also did the same thing Dame did, which was like, I'm gonna make it a problem for you if you trade for me. That was not a problem at the time, just for the record. People didn't hate on him nearly as much for that as they did on Dame, but that's a whole other thing. But the Lakers still operated as though they didn't have Anthony Davis just being handed to them. They gave them a hell of a package. They gave them everything that they had, and they really didn't fight too hard to make that happen. You know why? Because it's Anthony fucking Davis. And in this case, it's Damian fucking Lillard getting stingy about Nikola Jovic or a pick swap. It's a joke, man. You just simply cannot do shit like that. It reminds me very much of when James Harden asked out of Houston, and he had a very limited amount of teams that he had asked to go to. One of them was the 76ers. Obviously, he got traded to the Sixers later down the line, but I'm referring to when he was traded there, when he was traded to the Nets initially. The Sixers essentially operated as though they had James Harden, especially because Daryl Morey was in the front office, and obviously James Harden wanted to be with Daryl Morey. What a time that was. Clearly not the case anymore, but they ended up not getting James Harden because they were being stingy with very unimportant assets like Matisse Thybulle. They got hung up on whether or not they were going to get James Harden on fucking Matisse Thybulle, who no longer is with the team, and as I was saying at the time, was quickly proven to not actually be a very valuable young player. Not to be here like, look at how right I was, but I was basically screaming that when this situation was going down. And now, looking at the package that Miami could have given, they didn't offer everything that they could throw at them. Now, I'm not sitting here and suggesting they should have moved Bam Adebayo or Jimmy Butler, which Jimmy Butler is a very weird ask, because the report suggested that Joe Cronin asked for one of those two, and it's like, you're gonna trade a 32-year-old Dame for a 33-year-old Jimmy Butler who's also going to be unhappy there? What's the fucking point of that? But Bam, at least young enough, made some sense, but you weren't getting either of those guys, and that was fairly obvious. Still, the Miami Heat could have put an offer on the table that would have been somewhat competitive with what the Milwaukee Bucks and Phoenix Suns ended up putting together. Here's the issue, though. Ultimately, things seemed like they got personal between Pat Riley and Joe Cronin. Things did not, from all the reports that I'm getting, emotions were very much a factor in this. And I think it's pretty silly to sit here and act like one side of this party over the other was just very antagonistic and the other one not. It seems quite clear to me that both sides of this equation were fairly antagonistic. I'm sure you believe one person was more than the other, and frankly, I do believe that a little bit. I'm not going to reveal it though, because this comment section is going to be a war enough as it is. But regardless, there is some dickheadery going around. That's a new word that I have coined, dickheadery. Ultimately, what Miami did wrong was they based everything on this offseason on landing Damian Lillard, and they then treated it as though Damian Lillard was already a part of the team. Now, like I said, I understand why they did that, but they have no backup plan. And right now, every good free agent is already taken up, and they don't really have any option for stars to trade for other than maybe Drew Holiday, who is now currently on the franchise that they have beef with, so that's probably not gonna happen for that reason. So they kind of fucked themselves, and they don't really have a way out of this because the season's right around the corner. I think training camp is right around the corner, and they don't have a roster that is going to make it to the finals, because not only did they barely make it there the first time, so already you probably don't feel that strong about your chances of doing it again, but on top of that, now Damian Lillard is on the Bucks. Can we point that aspect of this out, that the worst case scenario was that Damian Lillard ends up on a very good team that can beat them and will beat them more likely than not? Like the Toronto Raptors rumors, if I was Pat Riley, that doesn't really scare me. Like Dame and Pascal Siakam, that's cool. That's an interesting team. They would win 50-something games and they would be a contender, but one that Miami would be capable of beating for sure. There's not a fucking chance in hell hell this team beats Dame and Jokic. There just is not. No way. And now you have a very thin roster. You lost two of your most prominent three-point shooting threats when three-point shooting was a very key aspect in them making it to the finals. Their roster is super thin. There's just no shot. They are not making the finals with this current roster. They really don't have the assets to make the finals, to build the team to be a finals team. They're kind of in the mud, and they've probably missed their opportunity. And man, they just shouldn't have been stingy. They should have said, hey, Dame wants to be here. Here's everything that isn't Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and things that you don't want. But they didn't do that. And instead, they are screwed. You know, there's like, if they did get Drew Holiday, that would definitely help things. Maybe there's some star player that asked for a trade this deadline and you could maybe convince them that Tyler Hero and 2 first-round picks is enough, but things don't look good. Things look pretty bleak. And Miami Heat fans are understandably losing their absolute shit. And a lot of people are calling for Pat Riley to lose his job. He is super old. It might be time to just go be with family, man, because the last couple of times that the Heat have been on the phone with another team trying to get their star player, things did not go well. I believe Pat Riley was literally asleep at the trade deadline, the most recent one. So not great, not ideal, not how you want your franchise being run. Pat Riley is an absolute legend, and I have all the respect in the world for him, but it might be time to move on to someone different. And if I were a Heat fan, I'd be pretty pissed off with him right now. I'm not going to lie. I understand also being pissed with Joe Cronin. You're allowed to be pissed about that. Although I think the narrative that he just completely intentionally sabotaged the Heat is ridiculous. And I kind of wish, this is an off the dome video if you could not tell, I kind of wish that I had mentioned this towards the start. And I especially wish that I had mentioned this in my Dame trade reaction. That was a very good offer that the Blazers got from the Bucks and the Suns. Like, I think the Heat could have put a competitive offer out there, but I've seen this narrative that the Heat offer was just so much better than that, and I could not disagree more. I think they're fairly comparable, and if the Heat just simply led with their best offer rather than being stingy over small assets, they could have gotten Dame months ago, and the Bucks would have never had a fucking chance to put an offer in that could compete. So it was their own doing. I'm sorry. They bear huge responsibility in this issue, and I don't understand why teams are just always ready to bat for their team's front office and defend them. Like, if your front office fucks up, you should be the first one complaining about it, not me. I don't have investment in the Miami Heat, so when I can see that they're fucking up, I don't understand why you don't. But yeah, that's it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.